Well, I'm just waiting for it in the comments section after this video is uploaded. Mild, of course, is going to win the day with regards to the overall Christmas period. Unexpectedly, but I suppose you perhaps don't trust certain models at your peril, and by that I mean the ECMWF and the Icon model has been pretty much spot on with regards to the overall idea. Now, without clutching at straws, and I know some people will think I'm doing it by what I'm about to say, but there is still going to be an opportunity for some snow. That would be if you live on top of the Munros, because of course there is not going to be any snow down at low levels during the course of the next 48 to 72 hours. That being said, we are seeing some snow and even to relatively low levels tonight across the northern half of the British Isles, and it's all thanks to a weather front that is moving northwards as I speak. Most likely, if you live in Scotland, you're under that rain at the moment and have been for the course of the day. Temperatures have been coming up as well, thanks to winds coming in from the southwest. But of course, the overall picture, the overall story, has always going to be the battle between Atlantic and Arctic. And of course, there had been initially the overall idea that we're going to have a cold Christmas across the board. Now it's going to be a mild Christmas across the board, and essentially what has taken place is the modelling has at times, GFS being one of the bigger players in this, has been overdoing the cold to the north and pushing it further south, whereas essentially it's been underestimating the force and the pressure put on by the Atlantic. And essentially what is taking place is that the Atlantic is winning the battle between Atlantic and Arctic here. So disappointing for myself, disappointing I'm sure for many viewers out there as well. And the cold, interestingly enough, is going to come in to the northern portion and particularly the northeastern portion of the British Isles later tomorrow, so Christmas Eve and into Christmas Day itself. And it is interesting how the modelling is wiping out any cold prospects in the run up to New Year. Hands down wrong, because I did think that it was going to be a colder pattern in the period between Christmas and New Year. So, as I said, I will hold my hand up and say it was wrong in terms of the forecast. I think, again, without trying to kind of wiggle my way out of a wrong forecast, I think the overall idea was reasonable in the sense that I believed that there was going to be a colder end to December. That certainly was the case across Europe, and we did see a turn down in temperature, if you will, over the last 5 days or so, with the high pressure lifting northwards over the UK. But let's have a look at the scenario, both ECMWF and GFS, for the upcoming few days here. So I hope everybody's staying safe, and I hope you've got everything in that you need for the next few days. I certainly have, and I'm kind of glad of that, to be honest, because I hate shopping at the best of times, but certainly this time of the year I just try to avoid the shops at my peril, are certainly as best I can. So anyway, enough of that. Frontal system lifting north over the UK tonight into tomorrow. It is coming up against resistance of cold air coming down from the north here. So you notice here that the frontal system, this is the ECMWF, of course, essentially kind of almost wipes out that front. It just decays in place. It's eroded by a lot colder, drier, colder air. And what's going to take place is this battle as we go through tomorrow and into Christmas. The battle between colder and warmer, but the coverage of milder air is much greater than expected. And it looks as if really north of the central belt, we're going to see a cool-ish Christmas here with some snow prospects. So this is during Christmas morning. This is the next frontal system moving in with a deep area low pressure at 979 millibars, a couple of hundred miles off the Irish coastline. You can see the precipitation tracking kind of northwards here. So coming up against that resistance, we're going to have some fairly brisk easterly winds coming in through northeast England. Notice here that we're seeing some snow showing up in the hills around Durham, perhaps parts of the southwest of Scotland, where the moisture is, of course, bumping into the cold air. So we may see some snow even for the North Pennines. So this is, as you can see here, in the early Boxing Day, and the moisture is continuing to try and push north, but it's coming up against that colder air and the high pressure for the further north. So you can see here off the ECMWF, which has of course been a warmer model, but it's done a pretty good job, I think, overall. But you can see the moisture gradually starting to progress northwards here, and what that's going to do is it's going to eventually pull milder air northwards, because the days after Christmas is going to see much milder conditions. And of course, when you've got an area of low pressure kind of northwest of the British Isles, you're not going to have a cold pattern really in that, and that is going to be the case. Now, as we press through to the end of the year, to the end of next week, you can see here that we've got one system after the other coming in from the Atlantic here, and we've got an awful lot of milder associated with that storm track here, right into the northwest of the British Isles. Let's have a look at the 850 millibar temperatures here. So, of course, this evening we're in the mild air, but you notice here as I skip through frame by frame, the colder air is digging back south once again here, which will open the door to a chilly Christmas Day, and should be brighter as well with that drier air in place. So we could have a fairly chilly Christmas across the north and northeastern portion of the British Isles, but it never really gets south of the central belt. If you notice that, even up the west coast, the air mass at 850 millibars is generally at or slightly above the freezing mark here. Certainly over Wick and over Aberdeen, you can see here the darker colours representing -8 Celsius at 5,000 feet. But that is a very, very sharp gradient between the very mild air that we've got in the southwestern portion of the British Isles, and of course the colder air clinging on to the northeastern portion of the country. Then as I skip through the loop here, we've got not particularly cold air really in place at all across the UK. And then as we go towards the final days of the month and of 2021, you can see here we've got the yellow showing up. 850 millibar temperatures of 12 Celsius is pretty remarkable. So we could be talking about at the end of the year, if this is correct, temperatures as high as 15 Celsius across parts of southern Britain to end the year here. So certainly that is a hands down bust in terms of what my overall projection was going to be. So yeah, disappointing, that's for sure. This is the GFS. You can see here that we've got, of course, the current setup here, frontal system draped across Scotland here, colder air kind of starting to dig in. So we're seeing snow levels coming down to perhaps 250 meters. That's it. So basically, we could see some tricky driving across places like routes across the A9, A96. Of course, we could see closures if they're not already. Cockbridge to Tom and Towel route, and some other high road routes in Aberdeenshire, for example, could see some significant disruption in terms of snow. So you can see here as we continue to skip through the loop, the next system comes in from the southwest. Very, very mild air, of course, during Christmas Day across the southwestern portion of the UK, 13 Celsius, pretty much a given. But we've got a chilly east to southeasterly wind during Christmas. Fairly bright conditions across the northern portion of the British Isles. And then, of course, as that frontal system bumps into the cold air, we see high ground snow, Pennines, Cumbria, southern uplands, and possibly higher parts of the central belt as well, later Christmas Day and in the Boxing Day here. And then, of course, that frontal system eventually kind of lifts its way northwards here, pulling milder air with it here. Pretty deep area of low pressure, if you notice there, crossing the low countries. Let's have a look at the snow projections of the model here. So this is the snow depth chart. And you can see here reasonable high ground snow across Scotland, across parts of the north of England, southern uplands as well. As I skip through, this is a Boxing Day, by the way. You can see here that we've got some snow at high elevations here. Looking at the ECMWF model here, and you can see the snow projections here of the model. So it's seeing the snow at high ground, and it's expanding over high ground during the course of Christmas Eve. Then it kind of peters out during Christmas Day because, of course, we've not got the moisture available. But it's as that frontal system moves in during Christmas Day and then the Christmas night, Boxing Day morning, we increase the possibility of some snow over high ground across northern England, southern Scotland, as well. So it's not completely ruled out the white Christmas aspect. Like, I could really throw in the towel actually if it was a case that we just had a blast of southwesterly winds and temperatures double digits above freezing across the board. That would be a complete and utter disaster. That is thankfully not quite the case, but there's no getting away from it. There's no getting around the fact that it is a disappointing end to December, that's for sure. Now, of course, I did make mention of the possibility of a pullback of milder air across the UK as we move into the new year. There was some of the models indicating that I was buying into this idea that the cold air would linger after the Christmas New Year period into the first couple of weeks of January. Now, my overall winter forecast highlighted a cold spell at the end of the month and then a pullback potentially for a couple of weeks during the month of January. Now, of course, there is still interest in model runs indicating the weakening of the polar vortex towards the end of the month and into early January. And I did highlight the fact that maybe 3 or 4 weeks down the line, so i.e. the end of January, beginning of February, we may get some sort of response to that. We'll wait and see what happens with regards to that here. Feeling slightly deflated, I must admit. I was planning to do a video yesterday, but I was feeling very tired actually yesterday. I'd finished my work for a few days. It was a long week, and when I sat down watching the TV last night, I kind of just thought, you know what, I'll just have to do a video tomorrow. Looking at the models and seeing what they were showing, I just thought, no, I'll get a rest for today. But yeah, so this is the latest GFS ensemble run for the 5-day period. 2-meter temperature anomalies here, cold across the far north of the UK. So this is of course the period today through the 28th of December. Very warm, southern and southwestern Europe, and of course quite a bit milder than normal across Ireland, Northern Ireland, England, Wales, even southern Scotland is in the mild air. We've got cold air, of course, across northern portions of Europe. But here is the big disappointment, if you ask me. This is the 6 to 10 day period. Wow, isn't that a very warm look indeed? Even taken out the 11 to 15 day period, that is not quite what I expect. But this, of course, is the period that takes us out to the 7th of January here. So we'll wait and see what happens anyway. And yeah, keep it right here on YouTube and on marfoganweather.com. Of course, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe, and we'll continue to watch this rather interesting twist for the end of 2021. Bye for now.